Hello. Recently, we've got a question from one of our users about implementing such a configuration in Business Manager, which will allow users uh, to separate views for different types of users in Business Managers. And this concrete question was about costing centers. So this means that in Business Manager, we have a number of users which belong to some different defined groups, and these groups should be able to view different reports um, for different costing centers. And I'd like to demonstrate a general approach how to implement this. So let's start. First of all, you have to define how to separate these groups, these cost centers, what cost center means. And for this example, I decided to go to customer list and create different categories for different customers. And then I will use these different categories to separate data for different departments or cost centers. So let's say we have this customer called Capital Languages, which belongs to category 1, and second customer called Words Global, which belongs to category 2. If to open customer editing form, you will find out that you can select category here, you can create categories on fly, and just create this structure. In your real scenario, you can also follow this example and separate data by categories, customers by categories, but you can define for yourself some other criteria which you will use to separate data between users. Next step is to go to, just for example, we have Capital Languages and Words Global, and if to open translation jobs, we will find out that there are a lot of jobs, 11 pages here, and if to select customers in lists, we will find out that we have jobs for Capital Languages, for Words Global, and for a few other customers. So in total, we have 11 pages. Then let me go to a role configuration screen and users configuration screen. I will create a new user and name it manager 1. And now we need to define a role. I will create a new role. To do this, we can go to role screen, create a new one, and then select created role here. If necessary role does not exist, then I click add. Our list contains some roles, but I need a new one, so I click new button. And let's say it will be department. A role will be called department 1. For simplicity of configuration, in this field permission policy, I will select not deny all by default, but allow all by default. So this user can access all the data in the database. Next step is actually configuration of the role. Here we have type permissions and navigation permissions tabs. I go to type permissions, and here we have to restrict access to some data. So we allow access to all data for this role, and now we need to somehow restrict part of data for these users. So in type permissions, I click new button to create a new type permission, and let's say we want to separate, to restrict access to some, for example, projects or jobs. Let me take jobs for this example, but in real life, you will need to define some criteria for not only for jobs but for projects as well, and this process could be pretty long, and um, you need to be careful while defining these permissions because you could restrict access to one part of database but leave open other parts. So you need to carefully test created roles in real scenario. So I have selected translation job, and here on the screen I can control read, create, write, and delete access rights for for the translation jobs table in a whole. Also here we have two tabs called member permissions and object permissions. These tabs allow to control more granularly control access. Here we can control access to individual fields of translation jobs, and on the object permissions tab we can control access to individual jobs. So we want to allow this user to access only customers which belong to category 1. I create a new object permission, and here this dialog, currently it loads pretty slowly because you will see now it contains visual criteria editor which allows to visually build some criteria which will control access to jobs. And I added one one criteria item here, and here we have a long tree with the fields of translation job. Also, if some field is complex object like, for example, customer, we can additionally expand it and view all fields of customer. Then nested fields also could be complex, and we also can expand them. So because of this tree is pretty complex and long, it takes some time to build this tree. So this visual designer always takes some time to load, but that's currently that's the price which we need to pay for this pretty convenient functionality. So I expanded necessary fields already, customer and category, and select name. This field will be used to control access. So customer category name should not equal to category 1. So what we get, if customer category name does not equal to cat1, then we want to deny read access to these jobs. So this user will only have access to customers, to jobs where a customer belongs to category 1. I click OK. Now I will speed up this video so you see that object permission was added. I click OK, then OK again, and select this role for our manager 1. And save and close. So we got one manager. So now I will speed up video and create manager 2 with access to jobs where a customer belongs to category 2. So users are created, and next step, I will quickly create some quick report, which will be intended for these users. So let me call it report, and for data source, I will select translation job and create. Here, I won't go through some complex workflow of creating a report. I will just create a very simple chart, and I want this chart to display just value from translation job. It will be, say, amount in base currency and like margin, and argument will be customer name. So we've got some chart which displays uh, amounts and margins from all jobs for all customers. Let me save this report, close it, and it appears in list of quick reports. Here we are. Of course, we can configure all to allow access only to this temp report. All right, so now we have two managers, and let me switch to another browser, and I will log in as manager 1. You can see that list of jobs contains only jobs for capital languages. Now we have 5 pages here. So this user cannot view jobs for other customers. And if I log off the system and log in as manager 2, we have only one page of jobs for another customer. Now, if I will go to reports, quick reports, and find temp report, and generate it, you will see that this report contains amounts of jobs only for this customer, for Words Global. And of course, if I will log in as manager 1, this report will contain information only for capital languages for another customer. So this means that when creating reports, you should not specify or control or filter data somehow which is intended to one manager or another. Everything is configured in security system in roles, and if some role denies access to some data, to some rows, then this information won't ever come into reports. So this happens automatically. The main task and the only task to implement such functionality is just to correctly configure roles. So only one downside, I demonstrated this in the beginning, that visual criteria editor is currently working pretty slowly. We will attempt to speed it up and improve performance. In desktop version of Business Manager, it works very well without any delays and loading wheels, but here in web version there are some issues for now, but we are working on this, and hopefully by next release it will also work as fast as on desktop version. So I think I was able to explain, to demonstrate general approach to the process. Thank you for watching, and hope you like this video.